All right. Hi, everyone. So we started recording for this pre-construction meeting for 1040 Somerset West, which is going to be mobilizing in the coming weeks on their site. I'm here representing Kijisipi Ward's office. We've also got Farah Bano from Claridge, who's going to be taking us through the presentation on everything that's going to be happening on the site. We're a smaller group today, but for anyone who couldn't attend, we're going to be posting this recording um, to have on hand. And since we are recording, feel free to turn off your video if you don't feel comfortable having yourself on video in recording. You can just speak, or you can put any questions through the chat. I'm sure everyone is mostly familiar with this at this point, but for anyone who might not be, the Zoom procedures, we still want to be, sensitive to anyone who might not want to be on camera and on our very popular YouTube channel. And so it goes. So I won't take up too much time on our introductions like we tend to do. I think everyone is pretty familiar with this site. We're going to be seeing a tower go up here just beside the O train. It's right next across to the Dollarama located on Somerset West. And I'll pass it over to Farah to share a screen with the presentation, and we'll go over the construction timelines, the construction activities, and most of the details that probably everyone in the community is going to be interested in on how it's going to be impacting the neighborhood as it goes, and hopefully give us all a good contact point and a good overview of how everything's going to proceed. Obviously, things will nonetheless probably come up, but hopefully this will be useful to refer to in the future for any questions or any concerns. So with that, Sarah, if you're comfortable with it, I'll pass it over to you.
Let's do this. Thank you, Stephanie, for the quick introduction. So just so I have it right here, we've got Andrea, Angie, and Anne here from the Devonshire Parent Council, right? And we've got Cheryl and Linda from the Hindenburg Community Association. Is that correct?
That's right.
Okay, perfect. Well, this is one of my first pre-construction meetings. So I prepared like a mini casual presentation for you guys. So I'll walk you through what I have on my mind and what I think you might want to know and the concerns you might have. And towards the end, if there's any questions or if I missed anything, I'll be here to answer that. I'm just going to share my screen real quick. Here it is. Can you guys see that?
Yes.
Perfect. All right, well, this is the 1040 Somerset building, also known as the Claridge Hindenburg. It's a 30-story building with a 6-story underground parking garage. We, Claridge Homes, are the owner / GC / developer on this project, and we've got some pretty big names here for architects, engineers, and civil, geotech, all kinds of consultants. The names are here in case you ever need to refer to it in the future. Like I said, 30-story building. It's got 262 units. These are going to be condos, not rentals. With a 6-story underground parking garage. It's going to have enough room for the residents and visitors to park in that area. This is a snapshot of the site plan. What you can see here, and I'm sorry the font isn't as clear as I want it to be, but basically this little gray outline is what you're going to see above ground. Those are the 30 stories that you'll see. That's the footprint. And this over here the outer edge is just some hardscaping landscaping around that building within our property line. As you can see, to the west of our property is Breeze Hill Avenue. North is the bridge. East, we've got the O train line, and south, we've got our neighbors. So, I mean, it all looks nice and good here, but how do we make it happen? Well, there's a lot involved, and what you see here is not something you'll see at any one given time. This is just, you know, everything put together on one little drawing, but I'll walk you through it. So again, this part here is our property. So in blue over here, I've labeled it sidewalk encroachment. This is what we're going to be encroaching for the majority of the project. It only includes the sidewalk. And then this yellow part over here, that is the roadway encroachment that we've planned to use when it gets busy, when we've got a lot of deliveries, when we, you know, have lots of in and outs. This is what we're going to be using. And if you look closely over here, this line over here shows the lane, the one side lane on Breeze Hill. So basically, even if we encroach, it's going to be a little tight, but there's still going to be two-way traffic. It's not going to be restricted to one. Two important things to note here. So one's the tower crane here, and one is the concrete placing boom here. This is on our property. But once erected, these equipment, they have a radius, a reach, and I'll show it to you on the next slide where that reach or radius or that footprint falls, just so you can see. Over here, we've got the lift or the man hoist, as we call it, or the temporary elevator during construction. This part here in pink kind of shows our idea of basically where the trucks will come, stop, unload, use the elevator to lift things up above the ground when needed. This part here in yellow, we'll be using this as a one-off just to erect the permanent tower crane and to dismantle it. So it's not a permanent thing. It's going to happen twice throughout the duration of the project. But, you know, those are things we usually give a heads up on and get proper encroachment on and figure out a proper traffic plan when we cross that bridge. So right now, I do not have an exact plan of how we're going to make it happen, but this is just a rough idea of the area we're going to be using to put those permanent or temporary pieces of equipment in place.
Farah, how long will
Yeah.
it be there for, the mobile crane? Because it looks like it blocks the roadway.
Yeah, so usually it takes a day, maybe two, but it doesn't mean that the whole road will be blocked for like 48 hours straight. It's going to be during specific hours of the day. And if and when we do get to that point, we will come up with a traffic management plan. So it's not just going to be some random road blocking that day with no notice or no planning. Like there will, if we are blocking traffic, we will make sure that there's another way for people to exit and proper signs are in place and proper notices are issued on time. So
Or you could do it on a weekend.
or exactly,
School is
yeah.
closed, yeah.
Exactly. So things like these, when we cause a lot of disruption, the priority one is to do it at a time that affects the least amount of people and causes the least amount of effects. So yes, that is always the idea. So there's that. Again, this is a rough idea. This is a rough location. This is, you know, just a thought in our heads that we really need to put our heads to. But I mean, it's a little early in the game. And then side trailers. I wrote TBD there. It's again, one of those things that we still need to figure out. In fact, I was hoping, or I was actually looking forward to this meeting to bring it up. I wasn't sure if anyone representing the school would be here, but I did want to talk to our neighbors to see if anyone would be able to accommodate them or not, and we'll plan that accordingly. But right now, I mean, we can kind of place them anywhere. There's no decided place for it just yet. We do own that little sales center across the street, so if nothing works out, there's always that. So that, again, that's a rough location.
Sorry, where's the I guess where's the property line or where that fence is by comparison, I guess?
Property line for 1040 or for
Like between the sales center and the school, because there's a fence there already and
right. Actually it's in just 1 second. All right, over here, let's look at this. So this is our sales center. That little blue outline, if you can see. And then that is our, I don't know why my mouse jumps like that, but this is our little parking lot. And then here is the property line, I guess. So this is what divides.
I meant in comparison to where where you would like to put the trailers.
Oh, so like I said, there is no decided location for the trailers yet, but worst case, or I mean, if nothing else works out, we'd be putting it right next to the fence to keep our path clear.
And sorry, are you able to provide us with the information of what would happen with it? Like, are the trailers just structures that are there, or is there comings and goings? What do we need to know about the trailers?
So the trailers, basically, first of all, we need a trailer. The excavation crew needs a trailer. The concrete crew needs a trailer. The mechanical guys need one. So there's going to be 5 or 6 trailers. To start, we'll have a couple, and then as it gets busier, there will be more and more. We as the GC use it as our office, as our little storage space to put some stuff in and out. You know, there's all kinds of labor material. You know, there's always something to store. So that, and then for concrete guys, there would be like hand tools, pieces of equipment. Like it's just a storage and office space for everybody. It's like a toolbox / office. You know, this is the remote office that they've got on site. So a bit of in and out for sure. So it is busy.
So Farah, just for your information,
Mhm.
so that where we talked about the fence, on the other side of the fence is where our children play, including all of our kindergarten students are out there. So our 3, 4, and 5-year-olds, that's where they're playing, right on that space. So just so that you are aware of that.
I'm aware. I've actually driven around there first thing in the morning just to see what traffic is like, how, you know, kids go in and out, what they're up to. And then I've done that in the afternoon as well, just to get a feeling for what to expect, because it's I mean, my goal is not just to build this building, but to do it safely and to really work with what we've got here. And we have to plan our deliveries and construction and everything according to it. I can't schedule deliveries for, say, 8:15 when school starts, because that is when it's the busiest. I can't have trucks just parked there waiting, you know, for traffic to clear up and such. So those are things we definitely keep in mind. And just to give you a bit of a background, I did do an addition of a music building in a private school a couple of years ago while school was open. So I'm very familiar with how kids are and how curious they are and how, you know, they can run, jump, or just come in the way. So those are always things on my mind, especially for this project, given how busy that road was when I saw it at 8:15 and then later in the afternoon. So I'm aware of that is what I'm trying to say.
Just a comment too about talking to your the subs about language, so they don't ask them not to liberally use the F word all the time, because that's often what happens, and because it's noisy, they're bellowing. So that would be very helpful to make sure they know they're near a primary school and to check themselves on their language.
Absolutely. And even regardless of whether they're near a school or not, that is usually what we strive for is you know, any any word coming out is like you have to be professional. You have to be professional regardless of where you are, and or who you are, or you know. So yes, noted, understood. The idea is we're gonna try to not have many tradespeople near the school to begin with. If someone is getting a trailer on our lot near the school, then they're in close proximity to us and they're gonna know how it goes. So we'll be in constant communication and in touch with our trades. So uh, I'm not too concerned about that yet. And plus, we've got some really good companies working for us. There's Belay, there's Tomlinson. So they are pretty big, pretty professional. They've got a great team. People you can actually call and, you know, get things done. So we're good in that regard. So here's the next slide. Like I mentioned previously, so the tower crane and the placing boom. In case for those of you who don't know, the placing boom is just it's like a crane that is erected and then it's got a piece of pipe sticking out and it's connected to a pump down below to a concrete mixer. So basically it pumps concrete to all of our floors. So in this slide, you'll see the green line, this green radius, which is showing you basically the radius of the tower crane. That's the reach of the crane. And then in pink, you see the reach of the boom. So this guy here. So mostly both of these reaches, the footprint falls on the south of our property, which affects our neighbors on the south. And I believe, as far as I know, we have an agreement in place with them. So we've got permission to, for our airspace encroachment. So it doesn't fly above the school or our sales center. So this is what it looks like. So I've written here that shore and excavation crew will mobilize next week. Just 2 hours before this meeting, I found out that the laborers have given a 24-hour notice to go on strike as of next Monday, which means that it's not going to happen next Monday. But if all goes well, if things calm down, if things are resolved, then I'm expecting, if not next week, maybe the week after, worst case, half a month later. But for now, this next week here, it's up in the air. So I'm sure you must have seen a little bit of activity on our site lately, and what that was basically when we mobilize, what we're going to be doing is we'll be piling into the ground, excavating and taking out the dirt. So the piling of the ground, and once we reach bedrock, there's going to be some vibration, some noise. Maybe there's concerns of some displacement even. So for that, we have to put some monitors in place to start monitoring the baseline of where that ground's at, what kind of vibrations we see on a daily basis, so that when we mobilize and start that work, we can monitor the change in vibration and all of that. And there are loads of engineering reports and data and limits that I've got. And I basically, for each of these sensors, I receive daily reports. And then I also receive notifications in case we ever reach any limits. So, I mean, the point of all of this is basically the sensors were installed last week and this week, and the monitoring has started. And this basically just helps us keep safe and monitor our site. the encroachment and traffic control plan. So like I showed you here, the blue is the encroachment we'll be doing for most of the project, and the yellow here is when things get really busy. So I wrote down here shoring and excavation. So that we anticipate about an 8-month timeline. And that's when we'll be encroaching the sidewalk only. We don't necessarily need the road unless there's 1 or 2 days of deliveries here and there, which we will coordinate prior to. But for the bulk of it, it is the sidewalk for 8 months. And then once that is done and over with, our concrete crew will mobilize and they'll start pouring the actual structure. And so until we're doing underground, we're going to be needing sidewalk and road for another 8 months. And then you'll notice when we get to the above ground, I wrote combination. So combination just means sometimes sidewalk only, sometimes sidewalk and road. And I say that because once our structure starts to go up and we actually have a ground to work off of and not just a 6-story pit, we can actually start using that ground space for deliveries, for storing material, and using the land for all kinds of stuff instead of constantly encroaching on the road. So it'll be a combination, but as our work progresses, we'll be able to tell or plan accordingly. Right now, it's slightly early in the stage to really know if we'll be using the road the whole time or not. The project itself is supposed to take about 3.5 to 4 years. About 3.5 are going to be busy, and then the last few months after that, it starts to calm down, and there's not going to be as much activity, as much encroachment, as much noise, as much dust. So, and again, it's construction, so I mean, we rely on our trades to meet schedules. So this is where we're at based on previous historical data and where we see ourselves, but we'll see. And this is just a breakdown of the schedule. So like I said, we have already installed the vibration and displacement sensors. 8 months we've got shoring, excavation, site services, and then another 8 months for the underground structure. And then after that, you'll start seeing things above ground. So basically the structure will go up, the exterior framing and boarding, and then you'll start seeing windows going up. And in the meantime, something you won't be able to see is the inside interior miscellaneous finishing, but that's kind of where our project ends. And we do intend, because of the size of the building, we do intend on having partial occupancy at some point, and then going for a final. So there will be residents at some point moving in at this point, which is December, late 2025 or early 2026, I should say.
Just a quick question on the timelines. So for the excavation, how long are you anticipating the blasting or hole ramming, if you're doing it, to last?
Mm-hmm.
We tend to get a lot of questions on that, so it'd be good to have.
So it's not going to be the entire 8 months, if that's what you're asking.
Of course, yeah, obviously not, but.
So if I remember correctly, there's about, I want to say about 3 underground stories that are just dirt soil. And then after that, we've of course got a bit of a profile, but that's when we start to hit bedrock.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not going to be fun, I can tell you that. It's not going to be too loud either, but it's not comfortable either.
Mm-hmm.
I would say the next about, so not the first half, but the last half will be slightly noisy.
Okay.
Yeah.
Are you going to be hill ramming, or is it just going to be blasting on the site?
A bit of both.
A bit of, okay.
Yes.
That's probably good for everyone nearby.
Mm-hmm.
So Farah, I'm not sure what mitigations are available within that context. I think that was one of the concerns we brought up with Jeff when we met him on site, was particularly the blasting, during school hours. There are going to be kids with sensory issues, even, neurotypical kids might still not like the noise, little ones don't love loud noises despite the
Mhm.
amount of the amount that they make.
Mhm.
So I'm curious, are we able, like, since we're talking about, really, you said it's the second half of that 8-month period, so
Mhm.
it really is actually like a first half of our school year.
Through that, yeah,
Yeah, I
think,
mean, and even like over
mhm.
the summer months, there is a daycare that operates out of the school, and lots of kids
Mm.
in summer care there. But
Mhm.
so what mitigation could we kind of consider in terms of outside of school hours or that kind of thing? Obviously, that doesn't leave you guys many hours in the day to do that, but
Yeah. So, I mean, off the bat, I can, well, when they do this blasting and all of this, it does happen during the day, and we are obviously, with this one, there's no getting out of it. We are mindful of the city bylaws, so that is step one. So, and that, if I'm not mistaken, it starts at about 7 o'clock on weekdays and about 9 or 10ish on weekends. So nothing earlier than that, but I know it affects the school still. The sounds itself shouldn't be sharp or too loud. I mean, they are there, and they are mitigated with those blast control blankets. So it helps with dust and some sort of sound protection. But on the other hand, when we do blast, I mean, these are controlled blasts. They're not, there's a lot of planning that goes into it. But I do want to, at some point, get more into it. I do want to know the school hours, the school schedule. Like, this is one of those things I did with my last project as well, was I need to know your calendar year's kind of a schedule for the school. What days basically you've got your, say, like a PE day or some important days, where we can kind of make sure that you get your quiet days. And as for the mitigation, I mean, I can definitely speak to our crew and see what they've done in the past in situations like this, because I know they work in downtown near office spaces or in areas where things like these do matter. So how about I get back to you on that once I have a better understanding of how they can deal with this.
And Sarah, as I mentioned before, I think I mentioned, maybe I am the principal of the school, so I'm happy to communicate all that with you. And
Perfect.
It would be appreciated too if that communication could be constant as well, so that we have some understanding of, if something is happening that day or that week, or just so that we can prepare the students and the staff as well.
Absolutely. I'm fully on board with that, and I'd love to keep that line of communication open at all times. I do that with most of my neighbors on any project, whether it's a school or not. Like, if we're going to be disrupting or disturbing you guys, then you have the right to know. And I do make sure that I look out for our neighbors.
Farah, if I could just maybe ask you for something, and for the school people, the blasting is actually not that bad. It's just a little boom. It's more the whistles, but it's the whole ramming that drives people absolutely insane. And so I'm surprised that you have 3 full stories of fill there, because most of Hintonburg is on complete rock, but we'll see. And some people have been surprised if you've only done a few holes. But Farah, could you commit to using the eco barrier mats on the fencing? Because I think that does help, and the city is doing it on the LRT line. I saw it as I walked along there along the Trillium pathway. And we had one construction site that used it here. So these are heavy mats that they put on the construction fencing to reduce the noise. So please look into using the eco barrier mats, please.
I've written it down here, and I'll make sure that when I talk to our team that I bring it up.
Thank you.
Of course. Thanks for bringing it up. Are there any more questions, or can I continue? With
I have a question. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Okay. I know you said that you were going to be doing monitoring with sensors on your site. Are you going to be doing monitoring on any other sites? Because the school, for example, is a designated heritage building, and
Right.
it is fairly old. It has fairly deep foundations since it has a full basement, at least under the main part of the school. I'm not sure about the added gymnasium. It would be helpful, I think, to at least put a couple of sensors in early, just so that, again, as you say, you're monitoring you're monitoring the ground.
So we're not actually monitoring the ground. We're monitoring the infrastructure and the existing buildings that are in super close proximity to us. So if we do touch a limit, for example, then the quickest way for us to know is to put the sensors on the properties that are closest to us. So, I mean, even if we were to put sensors on the school, they wouldn't add much value because we'll have already received the warning signals on the sensor that is on our property line, which is touching that little building. I'll show you here. Okay, so we've got a sensor on this existing building that doesn't even belong to us, but it's like 3 feet away from our property line. So by the time let's say there is a bad vibration or something, by the time it does reach here, we already have a signal here.
And what are you going to do when you get a signal? Stop blasting? Start digging with shovels?
There's a whole emergency plan in place for every little 5 millimeters of displacement or something that happens, which we're expecting it won't. These are just measures that every construction site has to take. So there are extensive measures in place. There is a document this thick for our emergency plan, who to call, what to do. There's all of that. So
it's very difficult to know with bedrock where the vibration is going to turn up. And again, as I'm sure that the basement of the school is considerably deeper into the bedrock than that building, if it even has a basement. I would certainly feel, as a neighbor and a member of Heritage Ottawa, I would feel more comfortable if you would at least put a sensor on the nearest corner. I don't know how expensive it is.
It's about $2,000 a day.
Well,
yeah.
are you going to be doing a pre-blast inspection of the school at the very least? Because if there is any damage, it would be very wise for you, and possibly the school should be doing the same, a pre-blast inspection of the foundations. And because, as I say, I don't think you could tell where especially when you get deep into the bedrock.
As far as I know, there was a pre-blast inspection conducted for the properties around us. So I know there is a sensor even across the road. There are sensors on the bridge being the most sensitive of all structures here. We've got some very high-tech sensors on here. So if things were to even go to a point, so there's like tiers of concern on when we do start all of this. So if we were to touch tier 1 or tier 2 or tier 3, then we've already stopped the work before we even get to something that's of actual concern. So for like the level of monitoring that's in place, I'm not too concerned about, just given the number of sensors we've already got, like on the bridge, on the LRT side, and on the water main that runs under this road. Those are the structures that are most sensitive. So the level of monitoring is extremely high on these. So by the time we do get some sort of a warning signal, we've already stopped the work. So we're never going to get to a point where it's starting to affect a bigger radius, is what I'm trying to say.
Well, good luck.
Yeah. There's been about 5 engineering companies that have put their heads together and created all kinds of reports and peer reviews and peer reviews. So this has gone through many engineers. So this is, I mean, they've come up with how many? Over a dozen sensors that are in place that are pretty highly calibrated and high tech. So I hope that gives you some peace of mind.
Not a lot, but hey, it's your responsibility.
Just in case it's useful to Farah and
Mhm.
Linda as well, I went and pulled the vibration monitoring plan that I think Claire has provided for this. So the school does, by the looks of it, fall within that pre-BAS survey by a pretty huge margin. But for the specifics, which I understand, Farah, you can't get too much into the vibration monitoring kind of the full details here, but I think it might be useful for everyone who might have. concerns. So
Yeah,
it
no,
looks like-
the inspection, definitely. There has to be an inspection done before we do any
Yeah.
of this. And as far
Yeah.
as I knew, it was done already. But like I said, I've only been here a month, so I can double check that to make sure that it was all done. But they wouldn't be mobilizing until that little box is checked off. So there's that.
Okay. In case it proves useful, I never want to assume. I know DevApps and all the documents that come along with these things can be, super kind to anyone who's not familiar with it. I realize anyone watching can't see it, but nonetheless, it is there. I'll leave it there.
All right. So if there's no more questions, I'll just move
Sorry,
on.
I have another question. It's not related to the blasting, more around the encroachment and the traffic management
Yeah,
plan. I'm not
that's
sure.
what I'm getting at right now. So
Perfect.
these are
I'll
the
let you
next
move
two
on.
slides. Yeah. I haven't finished the presentation yet. So, okay. So this area in green just shows our property, and this little plan was created by a professional traffic management company called Beacon Light. So basically, for just the sidewalk encroachment, all these signs you see are what's going to go up. Over here, I can't zoom in, but this little orange sign here says sidewalk closed. So beyond this point, it is closed. And over here, it says basically, if I remember correctly, because I can't read this, it asks people to just basically cross the road and then use the sidewalk on this side. So this is what we've got in place for sidewalk. And then the only difference between this and the road, you'll see on this next page here, and I'll just flip it back and forth so you can see. We've got these little barriers here for when we need the road. So these barriers will go up, and the only additional sign will be this little arrow telling you to basically kind of move your car a little over so that we can continue using that space. So it basically informs traffic on all sides from here, and from here to be careful. There's construction going on, to reduce your speed, and to move to the other side of the road to use a sidewalk, basically. Does that answer your question, Angie, or did you have more?
No. So I'm sure Anne and Andrea are sort of sitting there thinking the same thing. We're very much a walking school at Devonshire. There's 300 kids, and as you probably noticed, Farah, most of them are arriving on foot or on bike. And I think just jamming them all on that one sidewalk, and we're just curious. One of the things that Jeff mentioned as well was the plan to put that traffic light at the corner. So that's not really a question for you, more Steph, I guess, when that's going to happen. And then whether there's, we had discussed the potential of an additional crossing guard being placed there, sort of being absorbed by the project, or some sort of bike lane as well, was sort of giving the kids a dedicated bike lane, because there are a lot that are also coming in via bike. So
those are certainly good suggestions and good ideas, and I did try to make note of it as you were speaking. I'm not sure what discussions took place with Jeff or Vincent from our development team, but I can definitely have a discussion and see what we can do on the other side, and just to make it more safe, because it's definitely a concern for me. because I did drive there, and I literally was driving at a speed of like 15 or 20, because I even though the kids were on the sidewalk, but the way they're running and jumping, you just never know. And I it just, to me, is a concern, knowing that there's going to be trucks and trailers and all kinds of things driving on that road with those kids there. So absolutely, whatever suggestions you've got, and I've already noted the ones you've already given out, I'll seriously take a look at that.
I would just jump in and say, to me, a crossing guard on that corner every single day, because I know right now there's I don't know who funds that crossing guard, Andrea, but it's hit and miss. Sometimes the crossing guard is there, mostly there is, but I think in this case, like, there needs to be 100% someone there every single day. And if someone has to be moved from doing some other job to be there, like, someone has to be there at that intersection with an eagle eye, watching, and not doing a sort of, pardon my language, a half-assed job of holding a stop sign or whatever. It needs to be someone who's focused on it.
Okay, I saw a few hands go up, so I think Andrea, if you want to go first, and then we'll go back to Angie and Linda.
Sure. My question has to do with what you've spoken about, the trucks being, stopping and dropping things off for unloading. Is there a set plan on how they get to that spot? Are they going to be limited? Like, will they be crossing in front of the building, or do they come right off of Somerset, unload, and then go back onto Somerset, or will they be traveling up and down Breeze Hill?
The idea right now, and again, I have to talk to our trades and really get a feel for how truckers even navigate, first of all, because if they're using Google Maps, they're coming through Somerset. But the idea here is that they're going to be coming from using Breeze Hill north, come here, stop here, drop off, and then go ahead and turn on Somerset. That is the idea. Can we control that and make sure that they 100% follow this plan? We'll have to find out. If it becomes too much trouble, we might have to switch that plan around and make sure that entry is through Somerset only and exit is through Breeze Hill.
Is it completely impossible? I mean, I really am feeling uncomfortable about them even passing by the school. Is it possible to make it, enter from Somerset? I don't know if there's a place for them to turn around and exit through Somerset, so that stretch in front of the school is just not a thoroughfare.
Yeah, the biggest problem we've got here is the fact that semis cannot turn. There is no turning radius here. This is a small, tiny road. It takes literally 3 points to turn a car on this road, let alone a truck.
So then I guess when we talked about setting times, that would be a major concern that I would have with when, those semis that you're saying are accessing the site, that is done, as much as possible outside of school hours.
The main idea, and what I did at the private school was main deliveries. The biggest ones, we try to schedule it for before school hours, because construction does start at 6 or 7 usually. So we'd be happy to accommodate that so that we've got the stuff we need to work with for the day ahead. But that's not always the case. Not everything can be managed in the morning, especially when we're doing our concrete pours. We have to try and do it in the afternoons so that our guys have enough time to actually finish it and let it cure overnight, so that in the morning we can prepare for other things. That's usually the way it goes, but it would be nice to know when those peak hours are. So morning, afternoon, evening, I'd like to see all of that information so that we can plan accordingly. So right now I'm basically working with nothing. I have no idea what to expect and how to plan. So that's why I need to get in touch with you, Andrea, to get to that point.
Hey, Farah, my only question is, I think there was a conversation, and maybe this is something to go back to Vincent with, because it sounds like it might have been a bit before this project, but Tom and Jeff met with Vincent and some city staff and parents, I want to say back in January, to go over some of the traffic plans. And I think it had been bounced off then. I can't speak to the light for our office. I think Tom was looking into it, but I can't see a firm answer anywhere. But
I think it was
there's-
just sort of timing it like with the plan that there was going to be a light there,
Yeah.
like the idea that they may coincide. It really wasn't linked to this project specifically. It just,
Okay, I see. But
yeah.
yeah, but I think there was definitely, Jeff was pushing for a crossing guard. So I don't know if that's a conversation that just might still be just something to be picked up again and do. But I think we were looking at having a closure of the street itself just to make it easier for possibly kids to come in versus having a bit of a half closure. So is this going to be a full closure or just half closure with traffic still going through? Because I think that, yeah, I'm just trying to get a sense of where those conversations have gone, because it seems like it might have changed a bit, and might be some issues for us to help work through too.
So when you say closure, do you mean like closure for driving?
Traffic, yeah, for traffic, yeah.
Well, we and now that you've mentioned it, I mean, this is kind of the first time I'm hearing about that, but the idea
Okay.
was to try and keep both lanes open to
Okay.
avoid blockage or, you know, too much inconvenience. That's why we're only going that little bit of length. I mean, we'd love to have more, but we want to keep it smooth and traffic running as much as possible. But if the idea or if your preference is to close it off, I mean, I'll have to revisit that or visit that with Vincent to really understand what those conversations were and why, and if we should make it happen.
Yeah, I think it's just something to revisit, because I think it might have gone somewhere that neither, you know, that city traffic staff went with this suggestion, but just for due diligence. But I won't take up too much. Linda and Cheryl, if you guys want to jump in.
Yes, the thought of semi-trailers and other, well, cement trucks and other construction.
You're mute. You're on mute, Linda.
Sorry. Sharing the road with children is pretty scary. It just looking at the drawing, it occurs to me that it might be possible, although it's out of the way somewhat, to have the children access the school through the lane, and basically just totally avoid the conflict of the students and the construction vehicles. I don't know whether anyone's thought about that. The lane itself may have some issues, certainly with the parking at the dollar store, but we understand the dollar store is leaving, so maybe that won't be an issue in the near future. But you might want to consider it. I don't know, you might have to open up a gate into the schoolyard, because I don't think there's access to the school from the lane, but it might be a better solution, at least through during certain points in the construction. So I leave that with you, because I don't know anything more about it. Just as I say, it's not that far to walk, much further to walk across the front of the Dollarama and then turn up the lane. I think it would be safer. And certainly, well, bicycles, the road surface probably isn't all that good, but you can have a look at it.
That's definitely a great idea, and it's something I think between the school and us, we should discuss at least. But I'll leave it with the school, because I mean, at the end of the day, it's their decision. We'd love for that to happen. It'll really give us some peace of mind. But
I do foresee a lot of that being quite problematic, just in terms of it is a parking lot there. There's traffic going back and forth. There's a lot of hidden sight lines there as well. So it's I do see it being very problematic. But that's something that we could talk about later.
all right.
So I wanted to make a comment on it as well. When you're pouring cement, often you've got up to 3 cement trucks waiting in a row. So that's a concern because that takes up a lot of the street. A, they're very noisy. But B, where are you thinking? Because you're saying that the plan was for them to come up Breeze Hill heading north. So how are they getting to Breeze Hill to head north? So are they coming down Gladstone and then going all the way up Breeze Hill? Because turning down Laurel, like if they go Bayswater, Laurel, Breeze Hill, those are all tight corners for them to get to. And then the second question is, will you commit to snow removal in the winter time? Because if you just plow it all to one side, you'll create mountains of snow. So you've got to do snow removal immediately when there's a storm as well.
The answer to the second question is a definite yes. We don't just plow, we do have to remove it. We're already very tight on space. So space is very important to us. So snow has to go. So yes, we'll take care of that. As for how I anticipate the trucks coming in, well, we've got the highway, we've got Gladstone, and the idea is Gladstone, Breeze Hill, and then Somerset. So that's how that's happening.
Okay, so those are narrow streets. So just, you may have to do snow removal for the entire 2 blocks because our streets in the wintertime, many become impassable. That part of Breeze Hill is a bit wider, but yeah.
Good to know. Good to know. Because I was kind of counting on, so these little green lines you see on these roads, these are parking spots or like areas we could use for idling every now and then if ever need be. But the idea is basically that little pink line you see, and back to, I guess, part 1 of question 1, the 3 concrete trucks. When we've got the concrete trucks, we don't really have many deliveries happening or trailers coming in or, so this little pink area kind of covers that. So this is our active, truck / delivery / loading, unloading area. So that's what we're going to be using.
If I can
Does
just
that
jump.
answer? Yeah, go ahead.
One more thing just to flag, and this also maybe Stephanie would apply to you guys as well. So I'm not sure if you're familiar, at Devonshire, we have very limited staff parking. So the majority of our staff park on the streets surrounding the area, and then leave school to move their car every 3 hours. So, I know you were just talking about have spaces for trucks to idle. That's, I worry about that. And then I don't know if there's anything that can be done about that 3-hour limit. If that something could be looked at in terms of that from Jeff's office, just to support our teachers and our staff through that as well. I worry about them, because often they're rushing out to move their car. And then if all of a sudden those spaces are that much more limited, I mean, I know we've had lots of staff that have paid parking tickets, them all of a sudden scrambling to find a spot because it's taken up by other, whether it's the trucks from Claridge or what have you.
Yeah, and it's not just the idle trucks, we're going to have a lot of trades to build this building. So parking is going to, and that's typically one of my biggest concerns too, is it's not just the activity, it's where do we park?
And that I will tell you, Farah, that it's incredibly problematic on a daily basis in that area. And again, because there is that 3-hour limit, that people are always up trying to move it, and it's a challenge for the staff who are obviously limited because they have the children in the classroom that they need to. They're following the bells, so I don't know if that's something that we can look at from from the city in terms of extending that parking restriction. I know there was a movement towards that last year. I went and handed out flyers to all the local businesses to see if they would approve, and nothing sort of went beyond that. So if that's something that can be looked at as well.
And I've put the screen back up again because there's potential here, but I'm not sure. Like I have to drive around the area to really know why there is no parking allowed here or no green lines shown here. But definitely Steph, if you don't mind taking a quick note of that.
Yeah, I'm going to be speaking with Tom on that, Andrea, because he's going to be able to help pick that up. If it was, and for any reason, I don't know, where it might have went last year with the extended times and everything, but absolutely we'll do that. I'm sure he already has his eye on it, but it sounds like we're going to be putting our heads together on taking care of the parking and the traffic issues again, because I foresee that we're seeing some issues come up. So you have my guarantee. We're on it.
Perfect.
And
All
I
right.
see,
Yep.
I think Anne and Cheryl also have their hands up for the best way to follow the hands up, I guess.
Right. Well, I was just gonna say that I've kind of pretty much covered everything. So if you guys want to now start
Yeah.
asking more questions, let's do it.
Okay. My question, just back to the parking, is where did we leave things with Tom Brown? Like, even if, because I know we used to park at Tom Brown, I know the use of Tom Brown has changed recently, whether we can both get teachers extended time in the area and or also group parking for trades at Tom Brown, because I think we all realize too that many of these people are driving big trucks, also pickup trucks, and having larger pickup trucks circulating looking for parking at any point in the day is also not a nuisance, but it's it's their trucks on the street. So
Yeah.
whether we can look at teachers extended parking hours on the local streets and seeing about getting some set parking set aside at Tom Brown for the contractors who are involved in this.
Yeah, I think, for at least speaking as much as I can on our side, I know Tom Brown became a bit of a risky point for parking last year, because stage 2 LRT had suddenly just taken the lawn for parking, and that created a good bit of uproar. I anticipate, with the amount of trades here, what can be done, it might also be tricky. I can't promise anything, but in terms of what we can do, but I can at least look at it with Tom. I just as I think Hindenburg is probably already aware that was a bit of a situation when the lawn got taken over, given that Tom Brown had limited parking, and it was green space that we suddenly lost in the wintertime without really any notice. So given that, it might be a bit tricky. That said, I think and this is maybe also something for Farah and Vincent to know, you'll want to find spots for the amount of contractors coming. I wasn't sure what the case might be. Sometimes we see people come prepared with planned parking for sub trades coming to these meetings, and sometimes not. But on a bigger project like this, it might be something to look into, because the residential streets are going to be extremely tricky for parking, to be sure. I don't know if it's been explored, but have you considered using the parking in sort of the commercial lot just to the south of the school on Breeze Hill? I don't know what the case might be there, and this is just throwing it out there for the first time, but given the proximity.
The lot south to our property?
Yeah, like a couple down where there's a storage space, and it's the industrial lot that's a bit down.
This part here?
No, just it's going way below that. Yeah.
Oh,
so
yeah?
that L shaped.
Okay.
There. So I have no idea what the case is there, but given the proximity, I thought I would at least.
That belongs to the banknote company, and they have quite serious fencing around it and security measures. So I don't think they'd be too happy. You'd be better off with the 75 Breeze Hill, the one north of Laurel. It's possible that they might be more amenable.
Okay. So that's banknotes.
The car area, or
I think we're talking.
It's further south of where the
south.
arrow is. Yeah, sort of maybe around near the bottom of the screen.
Okay,
Oh,
like
That's
maybe.
the banknote company.
No,
No.
this is the Viva, it's like Viva, there's like Viva Moving and Storage or something in that area. Banknote is on the other side of Laurel.
Okay, yes, well, I didn't realize that building went all the way back. Yeah, that's what I meant, was the property belonging to 75 Laurel or 75 Breeze Hill or whatever,
Mhm.
whatever the address is, that would be a possibility, but yeah, don't go south of Laurel.
Yeah, because yeah, Banknote, we're working on issues with traffic even in that area on separate developments and stuff. So yeah, Google Maps. This is purely just exploratory, but that is a lot. And whether yeah, just on your left, it's going to be a huge parking lot with certain storage and industrial sort of uses in there. And then there's a Happy Goat on the other side on Laurel. It's pretty extensive parking, and either as a solution for contractors or anything like, for finding parking possibly for teachers as a different route. It's the biggest lot I can think of in the absolute immediate vicinity. Though, obviously, if anyone wants to flag another idea just to put it, on your radar, for sure mention it.
Oh, I've got the other one. Well, you've got the map up, is 1010 Somerset. So just across the bridge.
That's true.
Because Tom Brown is full of construction workers on the LRT. So it's pretty full already, but 1010 Somerset.
1010 is currently Ottawa Community Housing is parking there, but they're not using a huge part of the lot. And I know I'm going to take that down actually as something to look into with Councillor McKinney's office. Anyways, I realize this is mostly just throwing ideas out there, but rightfully so. Sorry, Cheryl, if you had another comment, otherwise I'll.
That was sort of it, but yes, the construction workers need to find a place to park. They cannot park on the street. Farah, so please take that away. You have to find a solution for them. And if you need to rent a little bus to ferry them back and forth, if it's, a little bit too far, but they can't park on the street. They make a mess of it. It's dangerous. It just can't happen.
Noted.
And actually in the 1010 Somerset lot, there already is at least one bus shelter. I don't know, as I say, I could never figure out what they were up to when I walked over the bridge and saw all the work going on. Ottawa Community Housing would be pleased, I think, to rent some spaces to you. And the other, you can probably get out of that parking. I'm trying to think, you'd have to, well, a bus would be useful. No, you can't use them up to get up to the top of the bridge. Anyway, you'll have to figure that out, or your workers will have to figure that out. Good idea, Cheryl.
Yeah, that's excellent. And I see Anne's hand is up again, if you'd like to go in.
Also throwing out the city center parking lot where there's paid parking spots that could be paid for by someone else, but I mean, it's a pretty quick walk.
That's is this what you're referring to? Okay.
It would be on the flip side of 1010. So 1010 is basically where your arrow just is. It's sort of the building that's attached, that big green space running along the O train, and yeah, right where north of where your little cursor is right now is just that's the city center, which has a huge stretch of parking.
That unfortunately is in red, which means it's restricted load. So I mean, cars are allowed, but if someone's driving a little van or a little truck, then we're gonna have to look into that.
Yeah,
like, we can't have loads on that road, basically.
Yeah,
it's a public parking lot. Like,
it just might have to go around the other way, but you can't see it. But there's there is a huge parking lot there that definitely it's got a bunch of different businesses in there, and I'm fairly certain there wouldn't be any kind of load restrictions in the actual parking. I think it's just the on-street parking in red leading into the center. But you can also approach it through some other streets if that's a concern. That's it.
Okay. I still see some hands up, so.
Yeah, I see a Linda and Cheryl, whoever wants to go first.
Okay, well, I'll go first. I'm unmuted already. So one, I would ask that you regularly clean the street, because that often does not happen on construction sites. And then it's very dusty, dirty, rocks, blah, blah, blah. So it should be cleaned really at the end of each construction day, especially because you've got kids walking there. So please do that. If you give us your email address, I can send you our document that we've made, asking contractors to pay attention to the neighbors and stuff. So we can send you that. And I'm wondering if you can also, how you will share the contact information for the site supervisor, whoever there is on site. People need a phone number. I'm assuming it's not going to be you, but once you have that, if you would distribute it so that people can phone you when there's an issue. We had an issue not long ago with an excavation where the fence fell into it. Of course, it was on a Friday night. So then you've got an enormous hole, and they gave us a phone number, but it didn't work. So that was, then it has to go through city bylaw and all that kind of stuff. So having that phone number for someone who can answer the phone and deal with the issue would be helpful. So as soon as you have that, please distribute it.
Absolutely. I'll share my contact info and the designated site super's contact info with Steph, and then we'll have it distributed. But we definitely have direct cell phone numbers, so you'll be getting in touch with myself and the site super directly, as well as emails.
Yeah, and I think that'll be good to send directly to, of course, Andrea and Angie as well, just so that the parents have that direct line.
Exactly. I just don't have all of your emails, so I'll Steph, if you've got it all, then I'll just send you our contact info. And in fact, if you all can do the same, send me yours. That'll really help us keep that line of communication open in case we ever need to get in touch.
Yeah, if everyone, I'll reach out to get everyone's emails after this, and that would be a very quick affair. But I won't take too much time with the logistics of that during this meeting. I'll rope everyone up after and send those direct contacts along. Linda, if you'd like to go.
Thanks, Steph. Just a quick comment that may already be in consideration. Also to reinforce no truck parking on the narrow streets, but also not to have the trucks idling in search of parking on streets, particularly when the kids are coming and going from the school. And also, I don't know if it's a consideration. Linda Hode or Cheryl or you may tell me no, that's not possible. If a shuttle bus were something that might even be considered, is there any space at Bayview Yards for parking?
I think Bayview Yards is being used for, it was where stage 2 LRT went for the most part after the Tom Brown was figured out. I think the city.
Yeah, I thought so, but maybe, I'm sorry, I'm speaking over you. I thought so as well. So it may be a no deal, but it just was an idea.
Yeah, no, I think more ideas for the parking than anything else is good, because I guess the matter would be, is there still space? I know they've mostly got it rented out, but it is a huge space, so that's a plus. The only con to that was even getting that space in the first place, I think was a pretty big negotiation So, but it's definitely something to consider, much like the others. But yeah, I don't know if anyone knows something other than that, but I was under the functioning on the knowledge that that's what it's being used for right now. Otherwise, if anyone else wants to jump in with a question, please feel free. Anne, if you'd like to go ahead.
Sorry, I may be jumping ahead and moving on, but I'm just thinking ahead. So we now know that this is a 3 to 4 year project here. And we know Claridge also owns the Dollarama building. So is Devonshire's future 8 years of construction? Is there going to be a pause between these projects that I know things are not as far along on the other project, but just out of curiosity, like what, yeah, I guess is Devonshire's future 8 years of construction? After this one gets completed, what's the next step before we move on? You move on the Dollarama building.
So unfortunately, as much as I'd like to answer that question, I can't, because I know I've heard preliminary talks of maybe at some point a possibility of a building popping up there at some point, maybe not. So it's a lot of maybes and very little of here's what it is. So I don't know, who knows, there might not be a building there for another. Nothing is set in stone. There is no decision. This ideas at this point. I know we acquired that land at some point recently, but it's work in progress. There's no definite plans for it just yet.
Okay, that's good to know. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Well, as I understand, this 20, so I know this is all dating back to zoning that got permitted in 2014. So maybe the HCA can help me out on this one, but does 2050 have its zoning?
Yes, it
Oh,
went
it
to
does.
OMB and we had a mediated settlement.
Okay.
The zoning is approved and nothing has happened since. There's never been a site plan or any other activity. So
Okay.
it is approved, and it is the whole site right back to the fence of Devonshire.
Okay.
Just the Dollarama building.
Okay, that's good to know. So in that case, and maybe what's good to give some information from sort of a planning like point of view is Claridge would have to submit their basically the last application they'd have to do before they could even get their building permits, which is site plan control. So that could be a 6-month process. It could be a year-long process. I know that even 1040 has been going on from last spring, so this has been a year. So I would anticipate that whenever that gets submitted by Claridge, I know Farah can't speak to it right now, but it's something that we would advertise, or whoever is sending the counselors emails in the future. We never know, so whoever's doing that would flag that application had gone in, and as soon as that application comes in, you can basically start a bit more of a firm timeline on when they might be moving towards building. So either that could come in a few years. Hopefully that would be the case, but that would be the thing to look out for to get a sense, especially from the parents, and for Andrea as well. You could look out for that. I can give you kind of a quick rundown on where to look for it in an email, but that's the spiel I would give. Because I don't think anyone would want that 8 years of back-to-back construction happening.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
No problem. I'll leave us with a bit of silence if anyone wants to just sort of percolate on a question. I'll let that come to anyone. I know we've made it through a number of them so far.
So Steph, if the work is planned to start next week,
Mhm.
but you don't have the traffic plan figured out yet, how's that going to work? Now, if everyone's on strike, yes, it won't start for another week, but you'll have a lot of excavation stuff going. So what's
Mhm.
the traffic plan for those starting Monday if there's no workers' strike? Are they coming down Bayswater, Laurel, Breeze Hill? Is that sort of the scoop? I know it's, school's now finished, but people on Bayswater should get a little bit of a heads up if they're going to see a truck, every 15 minutes down their street, a dump truck. And then you
Mhm.
need to clean Bayswater and Laurel and stuff like that, because dump trucks are very dirty. So Farah, what's the scoop on that?
So the strike is happening next week, so there won't be any activity next week. And I know school's ending or has already ending this week. So that's the biggest concern we have. But just to clarify, there is a traffic management plan in place. This little snapshot you see here, this is the traffic management plan. Sure, there's no traffic light or the other couple of things that you mentioned, but that doesn't mean that it isn't planned. It is. So for the next 2 months when the school is off, I believe this should work for just day-to-day traffic control for a normal construction site. Obviously, it'll get more complicated once the school reopens, and we have enough time between now and then to really figure it out, to put more safety measures in place. But there is no lack of planning or management in place.
So which way are the dump trucks coming? Can you explain that to me so that people can be made aware?
Yeah.
Which way are they exiting? They're exiting right onto Somerset, I'm assuming, but
Yeah.
which way are they coming in?
Yeah, like I said, they're coming in through Gladstone onto Breeze Hill and then turning left or right, depending on where they need to go on Somerset.
Okay, and so
Yeah.
Gladstone, how are they getting, like, which way are they coming on Gladstone, from Parkdale, or where are they coming on Gladstone?
Well, again, depending whether they're coming from east or west, but we've got our highways. So if they're exiting here, they come on Gladstone and up, or they exit here, they turn up here and then take Gladstone and up. So I'm sorry, I've been in Ottawa a few years now, so I really don't know what these roads are, but what you see here are major roads that are supposed to take trucks. So off the highway on these black lines to the orange in here.
So, Steph and Farah, you might want to flyer the people on Breeze Hill just to give them a heads up that you're going to see a dump truck, every 15 minutes or something. And where are they going to, you'll stage them in the block in front of the school, I would hope, as opposed to in front of neighbors, and remind them of the idling bylaw, please. They're not
This
to
is
be
where
idling.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to speak over you, but this is the place there, if they need to idle or to stop or to load or unload, this is the main spot.
I think you'll have more than fits in
Mhm.
that spot, quite frankly, from other construction sites that I've seen. I've
Mhm.
seen 10 or 15 dump trucks in a row. So they're not going to all fit in that spot. And remind them of the idling bylaw. There's no kids there maybe now, but there'll be kids playing in the schoolyard. So they should not be idling unless it's whatever it is, -10.
Just so that I think it was mentioned earlier, just so that everybody is aware too, the daycare is in operation. There is a school,
Oh, okay.
a daycare, and it begins at the youngest are 2 years old, and then there's an increased population this summer as well. So there are children and there's people arriving and biking and walking in and what have you too. So I mean, obviously it's not to the same extent as during the school year, but there is still traffic and children around.
Do you need a crossing guard there then? for those people or not?
I would think that in most cases, parents would be dropping off, but I'm not sure. And the way that the traffic, the crossing guards are tied to the school year. So that's put on by ASTA, the Student Transportation Authority. So they don't operate during the summer months.
But Claridge could provide one if indeed it's an issue, because I know that Taggart did, I believe, at another construction site before there was a crossing guard there. So perhaps just, you know, if there is an issue, be in touch with Claridge, with Farah.
Mhm.
But yeah, flyering Breeze Hill would be a nice thing to do so that people are aware all of a sudden why they've got, you know, 9 million dump trucks on their street.
Yeah, I think we're going to be putting out that messaging just because we're working with a bit of the tight turnaround here. And it's absolutely good. That, you know, in some fortunate ways, I think that strike's going to give a bit of a buffer to give people that heads up.
Yeah.
Working with that, but Farah, I would also, we can do it whatever the straight answer is, regardless. Like it obviously be best coming directly from the owners with the site super, sort of having their information on the card, and then that makes it less of a middleman experience. Nonetheless, if you're not up for that for whatever reason, just please let me know, and our office can go ahead and make some sort of messaging so that everyone's aware of what's happening, because otherwise we're the ones on the receiving ends of calls of people taken aback by trucks. So we'll certainly probably have to chat about that among some other things. There, sorry. And if you'd like to go again too. Sorry, I missed your hand up there.
Sorry, I meant to take it down. Sorry. I just wanted to reiterate the idea that thinking that there's no kids there in the summer, because that was like, just want to make sure, but then Andrew jumped in and said it. But yeah, there's 100% kids there all summer long. And I will note too, I don't know the plan for the summer. Devonshire is down to one schoolyard this summer. So all of the kids will be sharing the one. I don't know what the plan is for the daycare, but there'll be an increased amount of kids in the north yard.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's why we're here, right? So like we mentioned a while ago, so between the school and us, I'm going to need information from you and you need information from me. So once I know your schedules and you know, for the summer, how many kids you're expecting, what age, like, is there a break time where they're out? Is there, you know, I need to have all that information in order to plan. So, I mean, I'm taking all the notes down, I'm writing everything, I'm making sure that you know, everything is considered and planned accordingly, but we're going to have a site meeting where we need to get in touch at some point to really hash out the details here. I understand that the daycare is there, the school is there, there's not much space for roads, for people, for anything. So we really need to communicate and make sure that we plan together.
So Steph, if you can facilitate that exchange of emails, then I will send the details to you right away.
Perfect.
Yeah, that would be excellent. And we'll do that. So I'm not sure if we have some more questions we want to go through. We still have, you know, 30 minutes of time if we'd like to. Otherwise, it sounds like we've got some communication channels to be setting up outside of this meeting. Still, I think the traffic, some traffic sort of discussions to hash out, maybe perhaps with this new buffer that we've got, and obviously getting some better messaging out for some of the neighbors. But otherwise, we do have 30 minutes. So if anyone wants to raise any more issues for Farah or for us, I am here and I am willing to waste as much time as we need. Or if we'd like to call it, you know, quits, I'm willing to do whatever everyone's up for. And I'm sure.
Farah, would you mind putting your email address in the chat right now? And then people could have it and start doing that.
Yeah. We'll give a second for that. And hopefully the Zoom feature of not allowing you to copy paste things doesn't get in anyone's way. But there we go. All right. Awesome. And Linda and Cheryl, I'll pass on your information as well too.
Yeah, that would be great.
I'll give everyone a minute if they do want to pop it in, just so obviously we'll get this information to everyone and vice versa, but just so everyone has that on hand. And I'll keep talking just to make sure everyone's got the time to put their emails in there. But in any case, it sounds like we've gotten through the most pressing questions coming up with site. Farah, I'm sure you're aware of them and everyone knows kind of the plans coming up, but nonetheless, hopefully this was something that was productive in preparing for this. And,
Absolutely.
I think probably the best thing moving forward to is having that site super's email or phone number, set up and on hand, just so you don't feel like you're being, unfortunately middleman a bit too much on that, and that anyone with direct concerns about the construction happening can get to the most direct person. And so obviously it can take a bit of time to go through the bylaw route or anything, or if a building code matter comes up going that way, obviously the most direct way in this point will probably be talking with that site super and attending to issues. I know my desk is scattered with business cards of other sites happening across the world, because that's really the best way to do these things, and it'll be a lot easier for the parents, I'm sure, for Andrea and everyone. But in that case, if anyone else wants to close with the last question or comments, maybe. If not, in that case, I think we'll just close things up, and I'll thank everyone for taking the time immediately, after work hours to attend, and thank you, Farah, for doing an evening meeting as well. We really appreciate it, and I realize we were all working with some tight turnaround on this, so all the more thanks for being available to attend. We really appreciate it, and obviously I'm sure we'll all be in constant communication past this. So thanks everyone, and with that, I hope you all have a lovely evening, and I'm sure we'll chat soon.
Thank
You
you.
as well.
Thank you,
Thanks for
everyone.
making
Thank
it happen.
you.
Bye now. Bye now.
Thanks
Bye-bye.
for making time.
Thank you.
Bye.